In tonight's Political Insider, the buying of the president 2016. At the end of February, some campaigns were flush with cash while others went belly up. Here to track the boom and bust is Dave Levinthal, senior political reporter at the Center for Public Integrity. Dave, let's start with the Democratic candidates. It appears to be more of the same. Hillary Clinton and the pro-Clinton super PAC, Priorities USA Action, raised a ton of money. But Bernie Sanders continues to dominate among small donors. What stands out?
In fact, going into March, Morris, Bernie Sanders had raised more money in February, but also spent more money than Hillary Clinton. So he started this month with less cash on hand by a significant amount, millions and millions of dollars, than Hillary Clinton did. What also stands out, too, is the fact that Bernie Sanders is only receiving really token support from these outside groups, super PACs that can raise and spend unlimited amounts of money and do so in the primary as well as the general election. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, has a machine behind her, and she has one particular super PAC, you mentioned it, Priorities USA Action, that has been very active in the primary, spending millions upon millions of dollars to support Secretary Clinton against Bernie Sanders.
Senator Marco Rubio appears to be the big story in the latest round of financial disclosures. He dropped out earlier this month after a humbling loss in his home state of Florida. A few big money donors might feel ripped off. Tell us more about that.
Well, particularly if your name is Hank Greenberg, the insurance executive whose companies poured millions upon millions of dollars into another super PAC that was supporting Marco Rubio. And he was doubly burned in the sense that he was supporting Jeb Bush, who, of course, dropped out as well before that. So it's been a bad couple of months for both Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, and a host of other candidates who are no longer with us in this election. And Marco Rubio, he seemed to, at least for a while, be ascendant and on the upswing, and it just all fell apart in the mix of Donald Trump and Ted Cruz being the survivors, along, of course, with John Kasich, who isn't doing terribly well, but still in the race.
Yeah, these were terrible investments for some of these people. This week, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker endorsed Ted Cruz for president, only a few days ahead of a critical primary in his state. Walker dropped out of the race about 6 months ago, but he still owes more than $1 million to just over 40 creditors. Now, is there a financial motive to this endorsement? Can Cruz clear his books?
It's unlikely that he'll be able to clear his books simply by virtue of endorsing Ted Cruz. You have a number of candidates. Newt Gingrich certainly comes to mind from yesteryear, who still have debt on their books and have these sort of zombie presidential campaigns that are still technically active. But at least as far as Scott Walker's concerned, he is going to have to pay the money back or make a lot of people very, very angry who are there holding the bag as his presidential campaign also came apart. So Ted Cruz could be helpful in a certain way. He could send out fundraising messages after his campaign is over, whether he wins the presidency or not, saying, hey, support Scott Walker. But really, probably the best thing that Scott Walker could do is sell or rent a very valuable asset that he has. And he has done this to some degree, which is the information, personal information of his supporters. It's a heck of a big database. And as a result, it can be very lucrative to other candidates or other political groups who want access to those people who are willing to make political donations. And there's information available about them.
Wow, how interesting. You had a good point there. Now, meanwhile, GOP frontrunner Donald Trump loaned nearly $7 million to his own presidential campaign in February. He spent more than $24 million overall. Does Trump get that back? Does he get a big tax break?
Well, Donald Trump has said that this is money that's just going to go right into his campaign. The campaign is effectively going to have a loan that Donald Trump will forgive. So this money, although it is technically a loan, really isn't in a practical sense. But Donald Trump likes to talk about how he's self-funding his campaign. That is true to an extent, and he has put millions, about $25 million as of the beginning of March into his campaign, but he's also raising a significant sum from individuals, thousands and thousands of people who love Donald Trump, who want to see him become president, who are giving him, in some cases, just minuscule amounts compared to what Donald Trump has. It might be $10, $20, $50, $100, but that has added up, and it's added up to about $10 million, money that can offset the money that Donald Trump himself is putting into the race.
Dave, before you go, I'd like to talk about a much smaller sum that might end up having a big impact. $73,828. That's the amount Trump paid to the Jones Day law firm last month. Why is that important?
Well, Jones Day would not be a household name to most of America. You might know it if you live here in D.C. It's a very notable law firm, and it's a law firm that employs Donald McGahn. Who's Donald McGahn? He is the former federal
election. That's him on the
election.
left, right?
I'm sorry, Morris?
That's him on the left of the screen.
That is him on the left, and he's a former Federal Election Commission chairperson and longtime commissioner who is now Donald Trump's chief lawyer on his campaign. So he's somebody who's been a very, very close advisor to Donald Trump in his inner circle, providing him legal advice, particularly on campaign money issues. So as a result, you have in the Trump campaign somebody who is a Federal Election Commission intimate, but you also too have people in other campaigns. I'm thinking Ted Cruz. I'm also thinking Bernie Sanders, who have top lawyers who used to work at the FEC, and in the case of Hillary Clinton, a lawyer who is practically at the FEC every time they have a meeting. So a lot of people who are working for the campaigns connected to this agency that exists to oversee campaign money in political contexts.
It gets more and more interesting every time you're on the show. Dave Levinthal, senior political reporter at the Center for Public Integrity. Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome, Morris. Thank you.